offering our loving pranams at the lotus feet of Swami. We remain trapped in the mind consciousness, which is also sometimes called body consciousness, which is pretty much the same thing actually, because mind is the body and body is the mind. Or we can also say form consciousness, identification with form. Again, form is not just the physical form, which is this body. It is also the mental form, which is the thought body, also the emotional body. All these are also forms, just little subtler forms, but forms nevertheless. So we remain trapped in form consciousness, physical body consciousness, thought consciousness, emotion consciousness. We remain trapped in all this by, the mind keeps us trapped by living in time, always keeping us engrossed either with the past or with the future. This is what Sunil sir was mentioning as a horizontal dimension of life. You know, A leading to B, B leading to C. It is also the cause and effect dimension of life. There's always action, consequence. Consequence is an action and a consequence. It's also the time dimension of life, the mind dimension of life, the karmic dimension of life. All this actually keeps us trapped in form consciousness. Always we are either engaging with the past in the form of memories, pleasant or unpleasant, in the form of stories, empowering or disempowering, or we are trapped or engrossed with the future, with anticipation or fear, excitement or frustration. It's all the same. So we're always trapped, our energy is trapped either living in the past or in the future. Whereas real power lies literally in the present. Now, Swami has said this so many times. In fact, I remember so many occasions in my initial days with Swami, I used to want to speak to Swami about something from the past. Swami, you know, this happened and you know, Swami, what should I do? Swami never allowed me to finish my story. Never. You know, I mean, sometimes when friends would say, oh, you spent so much time with Swami, you would be getting to, you know, share with him all aspects of your life. It's simply not true. Hardly he will talk and allow you to talk, because the moment you start your story, Swami says, and the past is past, forget it, start fresh today. He won't even hear what one has to say, you know. At least that was my experience. I don't know, maybe other people had different experience, but my experience, Swami won't allow you to dwell in the past. The moment he sees you are going into the story of past and the past, chodo, aage badho, that's all. Finished, leave it, it's over, it's dead, it is not existing anywhere. Aage badho, ho gaya, leave it, move ahead. There's nothing in the past. Good or bad, there is nothing. So the question then is how to get rooted in the present moment. Now, what is this present moment? This present moment is this second, this day, this month, this moment. Actually, the present moment itself doesn't exist. There is no such thing as present moment. There is only presence. There is only the immensity of presence. Now, this is very hard to get by words. If some of us have not tasted it, intuitively, if we have not grasped it, either in meditation or maybe sometime we were in nature, and suddenly the utter stillness of everything resonated with our inner stillness and we experienced it. So there are many ways this experience can happen. But unless we have experienced it once, this we will not get. Most people won't understand. What do you mean by presence? Can you explain? That's what they say. How to explain? It is just what is. The very immensity of this moment, it is not even a moment. This momentless moment, this timeless moment, right now, right here, the immensity of what is and who we are in reality, that to get rooted in that is the purpose of all spiritual sadhana. Now, if we want to have a taste, it is very simple. Yesterday, we discussed 3 methods by bringing complete attention to the inner body, by questioning our thoughts, by not getting trapped in any uninvestigated, unquestioned thoughts, questioning everything so that we automatically become silent and thoughtless. Third, who am I? Focus on the I thought. As it arises from within I say, I have a talk today. I am speaking. I am happy. I am sad. I am this. So everything starts with I am. I have to attain self-realization. I have to become spiritual. I should not have take another birth. You see, all these are ideas that rely on the one I thought. So to investigate the very nature of existence, our existence, to look directly at the I thought. I. What does it mean to say I? Who is this I? Where is it coming from? To pay attention to this. Collect all our diffused energy, integrate it and pay attention. Loving, gentle, but firm attention on the I thought. Then automatically the thoughts will subside and we will begin to experience who we truly are. Like this, we can escape the hold of time. Time will not cease to exist. Some people ask questions, oh, if I go so deep into meditation, how will I live? Well, first go. First go deep into that meditation, and then we will see if there is any conflict with life or our story of life. You know, there is no such conflict. There will be enough passion left. There will be enough involvement left in what we call life. So there's nothing to worry at all. You know, it is like a baby asking, tomorrow if I learn to walk, how will I crawl? You know, a baby who's crawling and is so attached to crawling, suddenly it says, tomorrow you say I will learn to walk and run. If I learn to walk and run, how will I crawl? What will happen to my crawling? You know, but when you walk and run, you don't remember, you don't miss crawling. So it is just like that. When enhanced consciousness can never have anything but positive effect. We will never lose anything by raising our consciousness, ever. That is the absolute, it's just axiomatic. It is an axiom of spirituality. Axiom means a rule that needs no proof. It needs no proof. It is absolutely true in the sense that raised human consciousness never ever causes any adverse impact. Impossible. Not in the person's experience, at least. So this was the sum, and we went a little deep into those 3 methods. So the whole thing is to somehow, you know, escape the hold of time. Now, yesterday I had one other question on WhatsApp. The question is, we are taught to live life from the day we are born to focus on the results of our actions. Krishna says in the Gita, renounce the fruits of your action. How can we from a practical way apply this in our life? It's really hard to not pay attention to the results or focus on it. How has Swami taught students to renounce the fruits of their action? It's a really good question. That means we are thinking about these things. How do we act if we do not have an interest? How will I, make myself available if I am not interested in achieving something at the end of this talk? That at least some people should feel good. There should be some clarity, some mutual growth for all of us. Why would I be sitting here? Why would Sunil sir organize and take the effort of doing all this if he doesn't have some agenda? Selfless, but still some agenda to help somebody. Why would we do anything? Why would Swami take a form if he didn't have a goal of emancipating humankind and raising human consciousness? Why would he promise to come not once but 3 times? Why? Why would anybody do anything if there is no focus on the result? And why would you want to excel if there is no focus on the result? It is completely impractical, and really it is. So in my experience, what happens is results will always remain important. This is what happens when we theoretically try to understand scriptures, and we just think about spirituality rather than actually plunging into it. Actions and consequences will always remain important. It is not possible to live without having the consciousness at all of results. I will explain this with an example. You see, if there is a dark room full of stuff, okay, and you're walking around the dark room and you have one tiny candle, a burning candle. Now that candle is so important to us, because if the candle goes away, we'll be knocking ourselves out. So we are using that candle to see and find our way around. So we protect that candle with great care, and we are anxious that the candle should not blow out. Now day breaks, the sun has arisen, and you flung open all the windows, and sunlight is pouring in. Now the candle is still there, the candle is still burning. It is not that important. We don't really care, but we know that the candle is still there. But it is not a matter of life and death anymore. It is not paramount. It is not critical. We may still use the candle in some parts of the room, or we may not, and it may burn itself out, or it may not. We are not overly obsessed about the candle because we have a bigger source of light. When we begin to know ourselves through any spiritual practice, through awareness, through meditation, through selfless action, through love for God, there are many, many ways. When we begin to get a taste of who we are, and we begin to get a taste of the nature of existence, Satchitananda, for lack of a better phrase, results are still important, but not that important. That one thing that happens when we begin to know ourselves is we start to know without any doubt, it's all okay. It's just all okay. It was always okay. It will always be okay. I am already whole, perfect, and complete. WHOLE, whole, perfect, and complete. Nothing can be added to me. Nothing can be taken away from me. This Purnam, this completeness cannot be made more complete. The ocean does not swell in size because a few rivers pour into it. The ocean remains the ocean. So there is no desperation to find completion in action. Already there is completion. Then why do we do anything? For the joy of it, for the love of it, just for the passion of it. Because, well, there is a form, it has to do something. Why not we as well do what we love doing? And when we are not always able to do what we love doing, love what we're doing. Live with joy. There is really just a game. Ups and downs, struggles, yeah. The whole thing starts to become like a game. Somebody yesterday asked what happens when we advance a little bit in inquiry. What change? Playfulness. That's what I had said. That's exactly what happens. It's just playful. I mean, okay, let me put it a little bluntly. In one way, for example, if I'm giving so much time and effort for this session and all the other sessions that I do, I am deeply involved and committed to create transformation in my listeners. But at one level, I don't care. I really don't care. Because who are we to do anything? When somebody has to receive something, it will reach them. No force under the sun can stop it. And when something is not to reach someone, no force under the sun can make it happen. Life functions under the umbrella of a universal consciousness, which just makes things happen magically all the time. We just do what we have to do, and we just live with joy and with sense of playfulness because we know I'm fine. Even this idea that, oh, I should get self-realized so that I don't have to come again. Actually, it's a very, very, it is a myth. There is no coming. How do I say? What comes again is not this. This whole idea that I should not, it is like a wave, saying, I should not rise again. It makes no sense. It will rise again if there is breeze. So it is all, it's fine. Enjoying form consciousness also is fine. And then, as I said yesterday, seriousness gets replaced with sincerity. Sincerity means what? Just involvement with life. There is simply involvement. There is a joyful embrace of everything. There is simply a joyful embrace and acceptance of everything. There is really nothing to do here, actually. There is nothing to be attained. And even spiritual upliftment is a myth. There is no such thing. Actually, there is really nothing to do. I once, I met I was in Mysore, and I visited, just like that, I visited the Ramakrishna ashram. There is a beautiful Ramakrishna mutt. Ramakrishna ashram, it's basically an order of monks in India. Some of you may not know. It was started, of course, by Swami Vivekananda, the great disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, 100 years back. 100 years back, almost. So he started this order, and it has been continuing, and just like our organization, just like Chinmaya Mission, it's a fantastic organization, very focused on spiritual growth of its monks, also at the same time taking part in a lot of service activities, etc. So I was in this Ramakrishna. So Mysore is like, and I have a very good friend there, so I used to visit very often some years back. So there is a very beautiful Ramakrishna ashram right in the heart of Mysore. So whenever evening I will have time, 7 to 8 p.m, they have Aarti and Bhajans. It's phenomenal. I used to find the energy so attractive that I just go and sit there when I had nothing to do. So one of such evenings I went there, and I realized that a very senior monk has come to give some discourse or something. It got over, and because I went there so often, I had made some friends and I knew some people, so somehow I got the audience with the senior monk. He was I think at the time around 87 or 88 years old. So I just asked him casually, said, what is your state? Because the man was so silent, not physically silent. You could feel the solidity of his inner experience. And he said one beautiful statement. He said, I have no particular desire to live, and I have no particular desire to die. That's all. I don't need to live, and I don't need to die. It was quite enlightening. There is no desire to live, but there is no desire to die, because it is neither greatly exciting to live, nor it is so bad to live that you want to die. You are neither excited nor depressed. You simply are. It is like when the fan switch has been switched off, the fan is simply rotating in its own momentum. Like yesterday I was saying, Jidda Krishnamurti said, what is your state? He said, I don't mind what happens. I simply don't mind. To the physical self, to the mental self, to the emotional self, to the spiritual self, simply it doesn't matter. Because really the reality is simply reality. It is simply zero. It is just the universal neutral consciousness vibrating. It makes everything happen, but it never takes part in anything. It is like the space of this room. Everything is contained in the space, but the space is not participating in anything. If there is, say, for example, the space, there is a room. Today, an enlightened being can be sitting in the room. Tomorrow, a drunkard can be sitting in the room. The room is not affected. It makes both possible. It has no judgment for either. To the space, the enlightened person is the same as the drunkard. It makes no difference to it. It remains untouched, yet it is the very space in which anything becomes possible. But it does not participate. Reality is like that space. It is everywhere, yet it is nowhere. It doesn't touch anything, but it makes everything happen. And it is not at all that difficult and mystical as it sounds. It's really simple. If we just bring attention back to ourselves, we will actually very simply start realizing, who am I? And then, but what happens, because most of us have lived unconsciously for a long time, when we start to bring attention back to ourselves, then we realize how many things I have believed. Oh my God, how many false assumptions I'm carrying, how many thought patterns I have trapped myself into. That become evident. So sadhana actually is only to remove those blockages. It is not to create the self. The self is actually shining. It always shines. It cannot be dimmed. Even the worst sinner on the planet ever, even in him or her, the self shines brilliantly as it does in an enlightened sage. It's just that in the former, there are many patterns of thought and emotion that have clouded this radiance. Once they are removed, he is the same. A sinner is the same as a saint. A deluded fool is the same as an enlightened sage. There's no difference. There's no difference at all. So this is what we briefly spoke about yesterday. So I hope that answers this question about focus on the consequences of action. By all means, focus on the consequences of action. All I am saying is, at the same time, let us also make an effort on the side, for now to start with as a hobby, even if we cannot give our full throttled commitment, at least as a side business, let us also attempt to get in touch with who we are. Increase what I call presence. Increase, there is this big thing called IQ. Everybody in the business world about 30 years back was talking about IQ. Then about 15-20 years back, everybody started talking about EQ. Emotional quotient, making emotions work for you rather than against you. And now recently, last 10 years, everybody's talking about SQ, a spiritual quotient, which again, they're talking about values, all that. Fine, I have no conflict with that. I don't know if this term, I have not read it or heard it anywhere, but I use it often. I am now using it, PQ, the presence quotient. How present you are to who you are. Maybe this may become a famous term. If it does, remember, you heard it first from me. Okay. But PQ or AQ, awareness quotient. Human consciousness has not yet evolved so much that collectively a majority of the people start to grasp what is truly awareness. Although there are green sprouts everywhere, brilliant human beings are coming all over the globe, but we haven't yet reached that threshold where a huge mass begins to understand. Many people understand what is emotional balance. Many people understand how to live with values, etc. But we haven't reached that collective stage where, say, 100 million people understand what it is to be aware. We are getting there, probably in another 30 years, but then maybe everybody will be talking about PQ and AQ. But presence quotient, how present we are to who we are, and how present we are to the nature of reality. That is presence quotient. The one thing that will solve all our problems, remove all our confusions, and make life a breeze is increasing this presence quotient. This should be our one sadhana. Always, whatever increases this present quotient is worth doing. What brings it down is, at least for now, better to abstain from. So increasing this presence, and this presence is not in conflict with anything. That is the beauty. It is not in conflict with the desires. I know we have been taught desires are wrong. Swami also said ceiling on desires, but as I said, Swami's words are so pregnant with so many layers of meaning. Sometimes we miss the meaning, and we create a meaning in our own head. So the problem with Swami was, and I'm using this word loosely, he was not a philosopher. Swami was not a scholar. So Swami was not enunciating a well-structured philosophical idea that we can use to emancipate ourselves. Swami was a free spiritual giant. He simply sang the song of love. And just that song came out as words, which we call discourses. But instead of understanding the essence, the energy behind Swami's words, the intent of Swami's love, we got trapped in the intellectual dissection of his words. It is like operating on a human being with a butter knife. It's not the right tool. So we started dissecting Swami's discourses intellectually, trying to understand what Swami meant by conscience. And actually, if you really read Swami's discourse, Swami was very, very casual with his language. Sometimes Swami will use, but the same thing, Swami will use different words in different contexts, because Swami was not a philosopher scholar. He was an emancipated being. He was a spiritual inferno. He was an ocean of presence. He just, poured his love out, sometimes as discourses, sometimes just by looking at someone. So Swami would use, for example, the word conscience. Sometimes Swami will use the word same in the same context. For the same thing, Swami will use the word consciousness. And another day, he will use the word love for the same thing. Another day, he will say God. Another day, he will say the divine. Another day, he will say Atma. Another day, he will say Paramatma. A scholar will go mad if he sits to analyze Swami's discourses. What is this? What is he trying to say? But in love, we can get it. If we approach it with love, Swami's discourses, we will instantly get the distilled essence of what he's saying. And then we will say, oh, he's saying the same thing. Different words, different jargon. But that's the beauty of Swami's discourses. So intellectually, if we dissect, we get lost. So that is so that's what I was saying. This presence beautifully is not in conflict with anything. It is not in conflict with desires. It is not in conflict with our purpose of our life. It is not in conflict with trying to attain something in life. It is not even, this is the most amazing thing. Presence is not even in conflict with form consciousness. This is the beauty of it. It is not even in conflict with anything. It can coexist. It does coexist with everything. It is like this. Now, suppose in some of you, there is some sound in the background. Let us say, assume there is some construction going on somewhere nearby, or some, the fan or the AC, something is making some noise, but you are fully attentive to what I am saying. Then that noise, you are not even aware of it. And suddenly, if you start focusing on that noise or sound, then suddenly you will lose my words. You will not be aware of what I am saying. See this, both the sounds are coexisting. The sound that is coming out of my microphone, the sound that is pre-existing in your physical space, both the sounds are always coexisting. One becomes real and the other unreal based on what we focus on. That's all. One ceases to exist when the attention is elsewhere. The other ceases to exist when the attention is elsewhere. Our attention creates our reality. Everything coexists. Now, there is one other question which somehow relates to this. If our true nature is Satchidananda, how did we fall from that original state when it was absolutely perfect to begin with? Is the state of Satchidananda permanent or one that comes and goes? Now, this is another spiritual myth. That there was at a time a great state, and then we fell from the state, and now we are trying to re-attain it. The idea of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. We have the Trinity in Hinduism. There is creation, then there is maintenance, and there is dissolution. All these are mind-made stories to keep us in time. I will now again refer to something Swami said. It blew me away. Very, very powerful. Swami said, ignorance and wisdom are like two tracks, railway tracks on which a train moves, always running parallelly, endlessly. We think, now this is how, you see, how we love to live in the future. And I want you to bring attention to this, how we function as human beings, how our mind is always thinking of future. Once I get self-realized, I will be in bliss all the time. Problems will come to an end and I will be beyond suffering like Buddha. Nobody except Buddha knows what was Buddha's state. It is just a figment of our imagination. Once Jiddu Krishnamurti, again, very funny person, he was asked, what is your state? He said, currently it is Andhra Pradesh. The man at that time was in Andhra Pradesh, at the border of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. He was giving a talk and somebody asked him, what is your state? And he was expecting a great answer. And the man thought and he said, currently it is Andhra Pradesh. Because nobody can really know. Even if he were to expound his state in words, we will not know. Only a Jiddu Krishnamurti can know who he is. Only a Swami can know. So all we can know is our state. Everything else is just storytelling. Everything else is a figment of imagination. This was another favorite phrase of Swami, Anta imagination. I have heard it a million times, many times for myself and for so many people in interview rooms, in the bhajan hall, in group satsangs. Swami's favorite, after Bangaru, I think his second most favorite phrase was Anta imagination. Because Swami was always trying to get us back to reality, reality. See what is true. So coming back to this question, this is another spiritual myth. One day we will be self-realized. How did we fall? You see, past, future. This is how we miss the ever-present reality. Have you heard this phrase? Truth is called ever-present reality. Ever-present. So one day it was all, and this Christianity has something about eating the forbidden fruit, and Adam ate something and Eve and something, I don't know the story, but somebody ate something and then we landed up here. It is all a myth. Okay. The thing is this: creation, maintenance, and dissolution is happening right now. Every second we are creating a universe. Every second we are maintaining it, and every second we are dissolving it. It is not difficult to see. If we close our eyes, if we enter universal silence, it is not even that difficult. To taste it is not difficult. Yesterday I was saying 3 weeks of practice, you will have a taste. To abide in it, ooh, that is another game. That is something. So that needs an extraordinary commitment and sincerity. But to get a taste of it, it's not difficult. It's not difficult at all. So I just forgot my train of thoughts. What was I saying? Yeah, so we are always living in time. So if we go into that universal silence, we will actually see that in that universal consciousness, there is nothing, and suddenly I comes up. I. This is our experience. If you become silent, completely watching I, suddenly there is no I. And there is silence. And there is not even the thought that there is silence. There is just an absolute awareness, unconditional, unconditioned, thoughtless awareness. And then in that suddenly I comes up. That is creation. You remember Swami has said, I separated myself from myself to love myself. This is exactly what we are doing all the time. We are actually separating ourselves from ourselves. How? In that universe silence, I arises. That's it. Immediately there is separation. An individual thought, I exist, has arisen in universal consciousness. Creation has happened. The instant we say I and look back at that I, again we go beyond I. Dissolution has happened. Creation ended. But if we get trapped in the I, and the I arises, and then it becomes I am, and then it becomes I am Sanjay, I am a male, I am a Sai devotee. Maintenance. We are maintaining creation. Ask, who am I? Deeply, instantly we are beyond I. Dissolution happens. Every second of our life, by our own choice and will, we are creating, maintaining, and dissolving universe after universe. So when Swami says, I separated myself from myself, he is not abrogating to himself some greatness. Like There is no ego there. When somebody says, I did something, basically he's saying all of us are doing it. But we like to make everything superhuman and extraordinary and mystical. So we think with a wave of a hand, God created this universe and suddenly there were these stars. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but how does it matter how many stars are in the universe? This is all academic exercise, but in our own experience of life, if there are 10 stars less in the galaxy, does it really matter? Would we enjoy our breakfast any less? In our own experience of life, these things don't matter. So creation, maintenance, and dissolution are happening here all the time. All the time we are creating, maintaining, dissolving, every second. Now there is silence. I say this word, but the word has been created. There was silence. The physical word spoken. Sound came. Sound got created. Go back to silence. Sound is destroyed. Every dimension of our life, we are creating, maintaining, dissolving, creating, maintaining. This is the very cycle of life which is happening inside of us also all the time. So, coming back to the point, Swami said this, there is wisdom and ignorance is like a railway track. It is a myth actually that end of ignorance is wisdom. Actually, it is not so. Swami said, you can choose to hop on to any railway track anytime. You can hop on to the railway track of ignorance, continue to be ignorant, suddenly hop on to the track of wisdom. This is a choice we have to make all the time, whether we choose to be present or we choose to be in the mind. Somebody said, I think it was Swami Brahmananda, another very famous disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who said, the price of greatness, the price of spiritual greatness is eternal vigilance. Eternal vigilance. And I have heard another great person say this. The world considers him enlightened. He said, even till the last breath, awareness has to be maintained. You cannot be lax. You cannot relax. Relax, yes, the being must be relaxed, but you cannot be careless. Even till the last breath that your body is taking must be taken with awareness. That is what such a great enlightened person said. Imagine. So it is an eternal choice. We can be present, or so it is a choice we are making all the time. There is no such thing as, oh, on, now it's all over. So, Swami Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi used to tell a very beautiful story. He said, once a person came and lied down on a bench in the Ramana ashram. He lied down. He was very tired. Then he dozed off. Deeply he slept. And in the sleep, this man dreamt. This man who is lying in the bench in the Ramana ashram dreamt that he is lying on the bench of Ramana ashram, and he gets up from the bench and then he starts walking. He walks and walks and walks. He enters the forest and he gets lost in the forest. And then he gets lost in the forest, and finally he's wandering and hungry and thirsty. He finds a hermitage. He walks into the hermitage and there is a sage, a rishi, doing tapas there. Then he starts serving the rishi, and the rishi gives him food and water. The rishi has a beautiful daughter. This man falls in love with the daughter. She also falls in love, and the rishi blesses them both. They get married. Then he has a child, and the story goes on, and the child dies from accident, and this man is tremendously heartbroken. And then he now wants to find out the reality of existence. So he learns from the rishi and starts undertaking tapas. And finally he understands everything, and then happily he walks back to the bench where he was sleeping, and then he sleeps back on the bench. And then he actually gets up. All this was a dream, and he actually gets up from the bench. Then Ramana Maharshi asks, what happened? What happened? Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So we believed, I was telling, we should question every belief. That is also another way to become silent. We have believed that something is wrong with me right now. And the entire society, and unfortunately even spirituality, the way it is misinterpreted, is trying to tell us something is wrong with you. You are missing something. You need something to complete yourself. You need self-realization. You need spirituality uplift. You need a guru. You need to figure yourself out. You need something. You are complete. Something is wrong with you. Can you not see? You lose your temper. You have lustful thoughts. You have desire. You want money. Don't you see something is wrong with you? Oh my God, but these are uninvestigated, unquestioned beliefs. We've simply bought into it. Like a mob mentality. We all have, everybody is believing, so oh, it must be true. We haven't really sat in the silence of our heart and then looked at it to finally decide whether something is wrong with me or not, with something I am lacking or not, if I am complete or incomplete. To come to a firm conclusion, first we have to know who we are. How will we otherwise know with certainty? Subjective certainty born out of our own realization. How will we ever know if something is wrong with us or not until we know who we are and what I am? After realizing who am I, if I still feel, yes, indeed something is wrong with me, I bow down to you, I agree. But why should I agree just because 20 people are telling me? Why should I agree anything about myself just because 1,000 people are telling me? I can always turn my vision inward and find out for myself. If you tell me there are this many stars in the galaxy, I would say yes. If a physics PhD tells me, I would say yes, you're right. Probably because you are more intelligent than me, you know more than me, you have researched more than me, so I agree. But about myself, why should I listen to anybody's ideas and thoughts? Why should even the greatest scripture in the world tell me who I am? In the path that I have followed for the last 10 years, I believe nothing. I refuse to be educated about myself. I refuse to give that power to anybody to tell me who I am. I will find out. I'll find out. I am happy to be inspired by people, but I am not willing to be educated by anybody. Other things, fine. You can educate me on how to act, how to speak, how to sing, how to dance, how to run. Fine, sure. There are so many people who are better, much better than us in so many things. Great. But when it comes to self-awareness, all it is needed is to turn the attention inward. Why should I believe what this scripture says, that scripture says? Why? I will listen, feel inspired, great, but not educated. I'm not going to believe it. Well, we will find out. So let us find out if something is wrong with us. Let us find out if we are incomplete. Let us find out. And for that, we ask, who am I? Who is this I? What is this I? Let us just see if something is missing. Everybody seems to think something is wrong with me. Is there something wrong with me? Is there something as self-realization? When somebody asked Ramana Maharishi, what will happen to you after you die? He said, first find out if you're born right now. Before you start investigating into the nature of death, first find out if you're actually born. Always the mind is, future. Self-realization, then it will be an end of my problem. It is like a fish. Suddenly, a fish was happily swimming in water. Some bigger fish came and told the fish, your emancipation lies in you finding water. And the fish is going around asking everybody, where is water? Where is water? And some wise fish told the fish, you are in water. You are the water. Water is in you and you are in the water and you are inseparable from the water. And the small fish said, what nonsense? But where is water? And if I am in water, why am I not free? I don't feel the water. I need to find out where is this water. Somebody told me that is where my suffering ends. Where is water? It is going around the entire ocean looking for water, water, water. It lived in water. It dies in water. Dreaming about water. Dreaming about realizing water. But it dies incomplete. Thinking it was incomplete because it did not find water. We are always looking for something, but we are forgetting to ask, who is looking? The looker is the one who needs to be looked at. It is so difficult. This is impossible to get it intellectually. That is why 99.9999% of the humanity doesn't get it. It is almost impossible to get it with the mind. It will make no sense to the mind. But to the intuitive heart, it is really straightforward. Who is looking? Who is the eye of, there is a, I don't know which Upanishad, but there is some Upanishad which starts something like this. Who is the eye of the eye? Who is the ear of the ear? Who is the thinker behind the mind? And something like that. I'm paraphrasing, I've forgotten all that, but it starts like that. I think Kena Upanishad or Brihadaranyaka Upanishad starts, or sometimes somewhere comes in the middle. But the thing is, who is looking? We're all the time focusing on what is to be found, but who is searching? We are all the time focused on what am I seeking? I'm seeking self-realization. Who is seeking self-realization? Who is the seeker of the sought? This U-turn, this is the essence of creating presence, creating self-awareness. To start with, the simple sadhana is to stay either with the body, stay completely with the body all the time, not live here or here, live here. Live here, not there, there. Live here. Keep energy within the body. Just like contain it as if this is a box. This is a box. Think of it as a carton box. Seal it. Vacuum it. How do you vacuum it? With awareness. When I say vacuum seal, you know how we seal something, vacuum seal? Vacuum seal your body, so to say. Which means don't allow energy to seep out of the body. Just keep your energy inside the body. Just all the time be aware of this and keep awareness integrated within this physical frame and go deeper and deeper into it. This is a very beautiful way to increase awareness. Other way, we can work with the mind. Constantly watchfulness of thoughts and not believing. Watchfulness means not believing. Once we believe, we are the thought. Watchful of the thought. Oh, interesting. I'm not good enough. Wow, interesting thought. That's all. Why should I believe it? There is no evidence. There is no evidence of anything. Any evidence, there will be a counter evidence. Actually, if you look deep enough. So, why should I believe it? That is another way. Third way, easy way, simply, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? If we are aspiring to rise above body consciousness, how is it possible to be in that state while immersed in daily activities? As I said, the presence is not in conflict with anything. Become present and see, and you will see that it is very much possible. What is the best practice that works for you to keep you in the state of constant integrated awareness? All the three that I mentioned. I use them interchangeably. Depending on if I am having a few thoughts, then I may question the thought, I may come back to my body, or I simply reject everything and just say, who am I? Within 5 seconds, the mind is still. So any of these three, all three of them are complete practices in themselves. Just one of them also, if you take it to the logical conclusion, it is enough. So, we become attached to presence only in two ways: wisdom and suffering. There's really no third way. So what happens is sometimes we want to play the game of life. We want to remain identified to the body. That's totally fine. God is in no hurry. He is in no hurry. Eternity is 1 second for him. One yuga is like a blink of an eye. His consciousness is so vast. Time is nothing for him. Nothing. So, theek hai, 3 more lifetimes you want to enjoy. It's nothing for Swami. 3 more lifetimes, 300 more years. Arre, kya hai? Kar lo. Have fun. Whenever you're tired of the game of life, turn to me and I will tell you how to escape. So the thing I'm saying is we are also free to remain identified. That is the kindness of God. God has no agenda. We think that God has an agenda to make us self-realize. No, 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 no. He's no agenda. He is here to enjoy with you the game of life, sitting in the center of your heart. Now, if we want to remain identified, someday things will definitely turn into suffering. That is guaranteed. The system is built like that. However well we organize our lives, health, relationship, finance, society, reputation, all that we organize and everything is looking fine. Ooh, what a great life. It's just a matter of time before something goes wrong. It is in the very nature of things that something will go wrong. In the rarest and rarest of cases, if nothing goes wrong, death will come. That is definite. So the point is, when there is suffering, human beings question the very nature of reality. Some question it faster, some take more time. The other way is awareness. For some reason, you could call it God's grace, suddenly people get very interested. What is the nature of reality? All this is fine, my life is good, I have no problem, but really I want to go deeper. I want to have a more profound experience of life. This is all fine, I'm happy, but I want a deeper experience of life. And then they question. That is the path of awareness. So awareness and suffering, one of these two things will push us within. Until then, God is in no hurry. We want to go out there and work for the emancipation of the world and do whatever we want to do. We could start a movement like Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King and whatever. We still need to be present to be effective instruments, to be able to effectively use this psychosomatic apparatus, this body and the mind, to be able to effectively use it with awareness. We still need presence. Now, the thing is, when we truly become present, what this body and mind will do, we really don't know. And also, I don't know, now this may sound a little bit far-fetched, but it is really true. When we begin to know ourselves, this world begins to take a color of unreality. How do I say? Suddenly, the things that look real, it starts to look unreal. It looks hazy. It really looks that there is no such thing as injustice. There is no such thing as suffering in the world, actually. When we say I see suffering in the world, actually, I am resonating with the suffering within me. When I have erased my consciousness of suffering, such people are unable to see suffering. What they do see is people who are deluded and who need to be just shown who they are. But suffering as an objective reality, that there is suffering, that idea goes away. Suffering is created from delusion, yes, but there is actually something really called suffering that has to be overcome. That is no more there. So, everything starts to look unreal. And, some very great beings, great yogis, they simply sat quietly. They never did anything in their lives. They did not, like Swami, went out and created an ashram, a mission. They are not any less great or they are not any less useful. They simply, we really cannot gauge their consciousness. Someone who are actually seeing this world is unreal and he's just sitting and watching the game, we can't blame him. But from our state of consciousness, when the world really looks real, these questions come. What do I do with the world? How do I remove the suffering? And so first thing is, let us know who we are, basically. And the thing is, it is not coming in conflict with anything. Tell me, if one day, for one of the 46 participants here, if one day you come and tell me, I am practicing who am I, and I'm becoming so silent and so absorbed in inner samadhi that I am not able to remember to eat my food and drink my water, what should I do? I will tell you what to do. Let that first happen. Let us be so absorbed that we are unable to carry out our day-to-day activities. We are unable to do social service. We are unable to help others. But see, as of now, is self-inquiry coming actually in the way of anything? Genuine self-inquiry into who am I, it is not in conflict with anything. As I said, for now we can keep it as a side hobby. Let us continue doing what we are doing, whatever matters to us, earn money, take care of family, do social service, take part in organizational activities, do whatever you think is good for you. At the same time, also let us try to find out who am I. And then once we begin to find who am I, then our whole perspective might change. What looks important to us today may not remain important. It just won't be important. Now what to do? This is God's will. This is how it happens. Suddenly things like look so important right now. Looks like a joke. It's not. It's not important. That becomes our experience, what to do. So we have to just remain true to our experience and try to turn some attention inward and then see what happens and what turn life takes. What do you want to do? Oh, they say devotion. So once Swami said this in an interview room, and I have said this a few times in a talk also, in some talks, and Swami said, I asked Swami, what is the difference between devotion and wisdom, or Jnana Marga or Bhakti Marga as it is called in Sanskrit? Swami said, those who see any difference between the two, they don't know either. They don't know what is devotion, they don't know what is wisdom. Only such a person can think that these two are different. Was Mirabai not wise? Was Kabir not wise? Or did not Shankaracharya have devotion? He after all composed Bhajagovindam. So the thing, which is his most popular composition of all the things that he has done. The thing is, it is a myth that devotion is easy. Devotion is the same. You see, we may use love as an emotion to rise up, or we may use awareness to rise up. But in both the cases, we have to first shed our baggage. It is like we're walking up a mountain. We're trekking up a mountain. The lesser baggage we carry, the better it is. In both the situations, first we have to give up our baggage. What is this baggage? It is the baggage of obsession with our individual personality. In other words, what Swami calls what you think you are. We rise through love, or we rise through awareness, or we rise through hard ascetic practices. Either way, in all these, first step is we have to shed all our unnecessary baggage of who we think we are. So that is anyway the first step. So that is common in all aspects. And when people say it is high level, I am saying it is actually high level. The way people have spoken about Advaita in generally, it is all confusing because they take a very pedantic approach. They give these huge sermons on what is Atma, what is Paramatma, and all this, getting into terminology, and it has become like that. But the way I talk about it is really simple. I'm just saying, you say, I am confused. I am just saying, just look at the thought I. Give me 3 weeks. 3 weeks with all the commitment you can muster. Collect your energy and simply look at this I thought and tell me at the end of the 3 weeks, what do you feel? We can take it from there. That's all. How can it be high level for me to know myself? So as an idea, as a philosophy, yes, it may need a little bit of intellectual gymnastics, but that is not the way I have understood or practiced Advaita. Advaita means actually, again, it is so wrongly misunderstood. Advaita means to see God in all, to see that all are one. No, actually that is not Advaita. Advaita means I am one, not two. Advaita means Advaita. Is an antonym. It's a prefix of antonym in Sanskrit. Means the absence of something or transcending something. Advaita means Dvaita is duality. Transcending duality. That is Advaita. So Advaita means there is no two but one, but not in the world. First, I have to become. Right now, you see, I am not one. As Swami says, outside only pieces, pieces, pieces. What is this pieces? Part of me wants this, part of me wants that. Today I want something, tomorrow I want something. Today I'm like this, tomorrow I'm happy, day after tomorrow I'm sad. Today I say I love you, tomorrow I hate you. See, I am not one. What about me in my own subjective experience of life is Advaita. Advaita means that which does not change, which does not have an opposite. Everything about me has an opposite. One day I get up in the morning, I'm energetic physically. Another day I'm feeling lazy. One day I get up in the morning, mental state is blissed out. One day I get up in the morning and it is dull. One day I get up in the morning, I'm hungry. Another day I'm feeling full. Everything about me is Dvaita, Dvaita, Dvaita. About me, what is Advaita? What is in me that is one? Realizing that is Advaita. But people get again confused. Oh, everybody is God. We have to see one. And then all these questions. How can I see everybody as one? How can I see my mother and another lady? How can I have the same? These kind of silly doubts come. Of course I can't. First, I have to become one. The Dvaita in me has to be subsumed by the Advaita in me. Then we will see what happens about the world and what we have to do with it. We can look at it later. How it turned around for me was, I came to Swami in 2002 when I was 22 years of age. And when I say I came, of course, he was watching over me from a very, very long time. I know it from experience, but I came to Prashant Nilayam forever in 2002 when I was 21 and a half years old. And immediately, it was Swami's kindness. He took interest in me and he started helping me and all that. And this went on for many, many years, but I was actually a very miserable person. I was very deeply miserable in the sense that I used to be always miserable. And there used to be like little day breaks in when there are thick clouds, and suddenly there's a gap and there is sunshine, and I used to feel very, very blissed out. But then again it will be covered, and I used to be generally miserable. But I got trapped in what all of us get trapped, which is the society. And this is what I said, others telling who I am. Because everybody was telling me, oh, you're so great. Swami is talking to you. Swami is always asking you to speak before his discourses. And Swami himself in his discourse once, praised me and all that is his Maya. And you start believing things about yourself because everybody else is telling you. This is what I said. I don't allow others to educate me about myself. And I started believing it. So I was always in this conflict, like, I am supposed to be in great bliss, but I am not. So there was this eternal conflict in me between what I thought I was and what I was. I am sitting in the interview room, in and out I walk of the interview room, Swami, and I have what people would give a limb for. And I have this great avatar who is showing interest in me, and I have everything going for me. I study in this beautiful university. I have an MBA degree. I have loving parents. I have a fairly good health. Everything is going for me, I am supposed to be super happy and what a great life, but I am not. And Swami will play this game, and he kept on playing this game, and he kept on, yes, you are good, you're wonderful, you are the best, and there's nobody like you. And I was like, yaar, Swami is saying like this, but it is not true. I am not happy. So this was an eternal tug of war until one day I reached what in Sanskrit is called the parakashta. Means you have you have reached your limit. And I snapped one day. Snapped means within myself. And I said, this is simply not working. Let me get real. That day I said, I am going to actually look at what is. What is? What is? I'm not happy. Okay, so look at it. Why run away from it? Why hide this in all this sugar coating of, oh, you are Swami's favorite child, you are this, you are that. Hoga, theek hai, but the fact is, this is what is the reality. So let me turn to reality. Reality means what actually is. Then that day, I started turning my attention to myself. And I started looking, like, okay, I'm miserable. After having all this, if I'm still miserable, how could it be? What is the source of this misery? And then, of course, Swami's guidance is always there. And this I want to say, and I want to end on a very positive note. We live in times of great grace. And I'm telling you, sometimes we may feel that we are helpless and alone. I cannot begin to express in words how much love is surrounding us. I know people say there are angels watching over us. There are actually angels, but let go of all that. We have so much help and grace. We are swimming in an ocean of help and grace, and there is so much assistance and love and grace that is available to us if we just begin to open to it. And then when I actually started becoming real, Swami stopped talking to me. Because why should he talk? What is there to talk? Purpose accomplished, mission accomplished. The boy has turned inward. What is there to say? But to the world it looked, oh Swami, this is the Maya. Then suddenly the people who said, you are perfect. When I had many things wrong about me, now I'm actually fine. The world thinks something is wrong with me. This is how the world deludes. We should not allow others to educate about us. Now suddenly, Arey, Swami stopped talking to this boy. He stopped coming to 2009 to 2011. I didn't go to the Kulwant Hall. 2009 May, I think, was kind of the last time I went. There's a huge story behind it. Swami asked me to not come and all that, but that is for some other day. Swami simply said, "Don't come." First, I didn't take him seriously. He insisted, "Don't come." Then I stopped coming. People said, "Oh, he stopped coming to." I was still in Puttaparthi. I still didn't have a job. Swami asked me to wait. I was still waiting. But I just didn't go to the Kulwant Hall. I would just sometimes occasionally have Swami's darshan from outside. Although I had a reserved spot, it's not like I could have gone, I just didn't go because Swami asked me to not come. Now, the world, suddenly, Swami stopped asking this boy to give talks. But inside me, I found something far more beautiful. So my only thing I encourage is become real. Just become real means what? Just become real to your actual experience of life. What is your actual experience of life? Not what it should be, not what it ought to be, not what others say it is, what it is actually, really. And that we will only know when we turn our attention inward with self-awareness. So for me, the turning point was suffering. Just when I had reached the end of it, I said, my appetite had exhausted itself. And I said, no more, no more. I am not going to be fooled by all these things. Let me get real. What's going on? How does the mind work? And then when I started turning, and then of course there was Swami's help, physically, inwardly, outwardly, through words, through silence. There are many, many things that Swami helped me with. And gradually, I became a little more self-aware, and I began to realize it's fine. I was always fine. I just believed the wrong things. Not wrong things, I just believed some things which drained me of my power. I simply stopped believing them. Now the thing is, I never believe anything is wrong with me. I don't believe I'm inadequate. Does that mean I cannot make improvements in my life? Of course, that will go on till my last breath. But fundamentally, in essence, nobody can ever make me feel inadequate because I just don't believe it. I refuse to believe that thought. Now that thought doesn't arise also much, but even if it arises, I let it pass. I choose what I believe and what I don't believe. So there is no question, or nobody can ever make me feel inadequate. Yes, they can show me how I can improve. They can give me feedback. They can tell me that, this is not working with you. Please change this. Sure. But fundamentally, who I am at that level, I won't feel inadequate or incomplete. So when I speak from that level, it appears as if, it appears as if it is perfect. And it is at that level. But then life is lived in so many levels and so many dimensions.